This meeting is being recorded.
Morning, everybody. Happy May. Happy heat wave in May, I guess. Um, Good to see everybody. Thanks for coming to the week early because I figured nobody would want to do this on Memorial Day. It also doesn't seem possible. It's Memorial Day coming up already. I'm going to share my screen. As usual, we're going to be hopping around between the sandbox, probably Fairfield, and the um, public portal aspect. Today we are talking about sets and galleries, um, how you can use them, how they're useful to you. It'll probably also involve some discussion on searching too, because those kind of go hand in hand in my mind for doing a lot of different tasks. Let's see. So I'm just going to log into the sandbox here. And let me log into Fairfield as well. I may or may not actually know my password to my own database. I do. Yay. Okay. So I'm not sure. Some of you I know are familiar with using the sets to pull things together for different purposes. Uh, the I'm just going into I'm in Fairfield. This is why it looks so busy because I have a lot of stuff on my screen. Um, you can create sets as a way to pull together groups of objects. I use that honestly a lot more for specific collections of things, um, for being able to see all of my, for instance, bulky family items I pull together as a set so I don't have to do a new search every time. I do it for workflow of items that I'm looking at to deaccession. I also do it for more formal, something came in as a specific like named collection, I put it there. I know a lot of folks have been using the talk to the sandbox for a second. A lot of folks have been using collections to group together collections of things like, here's all of my ceramics, here's all of my glassware in this collection. Um, Technically possible. I would recommend using sets as a way to do that versus using that collections part of module in the system, mainly because that collections module is built to be archival collections. It's a certain format with certain fields in that are going to be a lot of extra fields that you wouldn't need for more of an object collection. Um, and missing some fields that you would want for an object collection or not as easily able to pull up or in a little bit more unwieldy to pull things together, honestly. Um, let's say, don't know. So there's different ways to go about forming the sets for things. Oh, one of the other main things I use sets for is pulling groups of things together for exhibitions. It's really useful when you have, especially when you have a team of people pulling things together to say, oh, we have this exhibition coming up next. In Fairfield, for example, we've got a very loose exhibit concept right now for sometime, I think late next year, on animals, pets, anything like that. So we've started a set as a way to just, even if you accidentally come across something, adding it to the set so that I don't have to write it down. I don't have to save it somewhere. My curator can save them if I see things. I can save things if I see things. Whether we use it or not in the end, who knows? But it's a way of kind of keeping that stuff, like a list of that stuff. that's more of like an informal use as opposed to using a specific, collection grouping for something. Um, you can get to sets, as with anything in the system, it makes it a little bit not complicated, but you can get to the sets and use the sets in a couple different ways. I'm gonna use Fairfield, and I can use that animal set, honestly. Um, you're searching for something, say I am searching for the animals. I'm just gonna put cat in just because I know cat is usually a good search term, as is dog, in a bunch of different places. And this could be a bunch of anything, who knows? But we're just going to pull that up, for instance. So I've got full results here. I've only got apparently 41 items that have the word cat in it. Let's see, we have weird things. So in theory, I'm working on this exhibit. I'm pulling this up. Over on the left-hand side over here, in your search objects history, you've got my cat search here. I've also got a couple saved searches. We can talk about that in future when we talk about searching. Set unless we get to it today. Or you can search by the set. Um, what we want right now is down here, the set tools. When you click on that, you'll see add checked items to an already existing set, or you'll see create a set. And usually it just names it whatever your search term was or your search string was. We'll name that. So you can create a set from that. I'm going to create a set and I'll get rid of it later, but cats for exhibition. And I can change that. I'm actually going to say cats slash animals for exhibition. And I don't want all the results because I don't want like this child's barrel armchair I don't need. So I'm going to change this to from checked and check off a couple things. I'm probably not going to use the fur collar, but you never know. Wish cards, it's hard to see, I'm sure, from you guys' view. It's an Alice in Wonderland theme set, so I'm assuming there might be a Cheshire Cat in there somewhere. So we'll keep that one. We'll keep this Alice in Wonderland. Um, in case you want to look at something really quick and say, oh, why is this being included in my weird search? You can always open it up and see. So I'm not sure why cats is in this one, so I'm going to skip that. We still have these two checked. Figurines that is really looks like a knockoff Mickey Mouse. So who knows? All right. I'm going to put my favorite cloth stuffed cats. We've used these before. And there's a little pattern to make said cloth stuffed cats. So these can go in there. So now you're going to click the little plus over on the side. There is the option if you want to open a set for batch editing at the same time you're doing this. You can click that as well. And it just depends on your workflow and what your project is. Say you wanted to put something, note that it was part of an exhibit or put the same note in all of the objects. You can do that now while you're creating the set. I'm going to click the plus and it'll come up and say created set cats, animals for exhibition with 6 objects. So you know that that worked. So now when you go, I'm just going to kind of like I'm starting at the beginning. And I'll get to one very important part in just a second. So now let's see, I want to go into my objects. Again, apologies for the busyness. That's just how I have my screen set up. So now we want to pull that set back up. You can do it one way like this, search by set. A lot of the time, if it's something you just created, it'll be all the way down at the bottom of the list. In this case, because I kind of went out and came back in, it's right here. But if you don't see it right away, scroll all the way to the bottom of your list and you'll see it. You can also see how many sets I have going in Fairfield for different variations of things. A lot of the time with these that I have numbers on are groupings of items that I need to do some work on or do some batch editing on. I've got stuff set up for previous exhibit, Alice in Museum Land. I've used that before. A quilt study group came, pulled a bunch of stuff together for them. I have people coming in to look at the Bibbins collection in a couple of weeks. So pull that together just makes it a lot easier than having to go in and do the same search over and over again, or having to remember what you've had. This way it also lets other people in your museum look at certain things. So it can be used for as a great tool for a bunch of different things. I'm just showing you the extent of which you have these. Now, a lot of these are only visible to me as my login. And that's what we want to talk about next too. So let me pull my cats thing up. Go back up here. So I'm going to select this and pull up the grouping that we just did. So this is just pulling it up as the individual objects. If you want to go in and say something about that set or do anything else with it, you go up to Manage, My Sets, and I'll say a word about this in a second. You will only be able to get to that Manage My Sets part if your login has permission to do that, if your user login has permission to do that. So depending on, usually it's the admins that can manage it, and a bunch of other people will be able to see them if you've given them permission. The easiest way to use this is to go just to all sets. Public presentations is what the galleries are, which we'll get to in a second as well. So you can pull up like all the existing sets or by individual user sets by user here. I want to look at all sets. Okay, so here's the list of it, and this is kind of the back end view of them, who created them, how many things they have, whether they're accessible to the public or not. More specific information about the set, which is right here in the standard edit page icon. I always tell this story, and you'll hear it a bunch more times. I didn't realize when working with these to begin with, we're going to go directly to the set. And you can type up in that, I'm pointing my screen like you can see that. You can type up in this search whatever set you're looking for and it'll pop up. So you don't have to go scrolling up and down 80 times. This is specific screen to this set. So you're now editing the user set. What I didn't realize when we first started doing this is you have to give permissions to other people or other access groups in your institution before everybody can see it. Otherwise, because I created this set, right now only I can see it. We figured that out very quickly once we were getting ready for an exhibit. I'm like, oh, I added like 5 more items today. And my curator at the time was like, oh yeah, I ordered 10 items yesterday, added 10 items yesterday. I'm like, no, but there's only the 5 that I added. And then we realized that you needed to be able to give permissions to other people to use this. So I usually, it'll automatically go to the items listing. I start back up in the basic info part. And this is talking about the set. Again, when you're not sure where you are, look up at this editing user set up here to see your editing. So this is the set title. You can change that as you need to. The set code, it automatically generates that. You don't need to mess with that unless you need to for some reason. But it's just kind of a back end part of the system. So it looks for those kind of things. Access is automatically by default is not accessible to the public. Put a pin in that for later. The record status, I do use this just for my own information, whether something is new, whether editing is in progress, completed, somebody's reviewing, or fully completed. I'm going to go editing in progress for now. Introduction is either what you want to say about the set of, I'm just going to say beginning list of animal related objects, images for animal show.
Diane,
Yes.
it's Rebecca from the Matatuck. I have a question about the record status, the editing in progress. Can you open that drop down up just to see the options again?
Yep.
If so, for instance, we just opened a show and we have a checklist as a set in our database space.
Mhm.
And if I want it to mark that as completed, meaning
Mhm.
like this set should never change because the exhibition is open, the checklist
Mhm.
is done. Um, is there a way to monitor like the permissions to make sure somebody doesn't accidentally then change it and its record status shows as completed, but maybe it now has an error in it because somebody thought like the checklist was still live and for something else, like thinking in the future when somebody
Mhm.
maybe doesn't recognize the exhibition title?
Yes, you should be able to do that. That's going to be under user permissions, and it's going to be a very like granular little item that's in there to be able to do any editing to some of this. Well, actually, take that back a little bit because you can probably do that through group access and user access down below. So that's actually a better way of doing it. Um, that one is also something that you can figure out how to be the only one in control of it. Like if you're saying like the curator is the only one who can make that determination, you don't want anybody else to be able to do it. Um, let me click save really quick to save my weird little introduction. This is actually kind of the next why I was coming down to this part. Side note in that introduction, if you're going to make this a public gallery at some point, I usually use just the intro to the exhibition or to the topic and put something here like Fairfield has a tremendous amount of quotes in their collection. Here we go, kind of thing. Okay, so down here, user access and group access. So if you want somebody else to be able to see the items, you have to add them here, add them by username here. Or you can add group access here. Group access is a really easy way of um, doing everybody all at once. So if you have it, everybody get ready to laugh at this one. If you have a group of 10 people that need to see this exhibition set, none of us do, you can put something in like I've got Fairfield admins, I have all of my Fairfield people here, and I can just add with one click, I can add, the whole staff if I want to. uh, or just the admins, which are typically our exhibition team, the curator, me, one of the folks who does editing on the script and that kind of thing. Um, so normally I'll do Fairfield admins, and you can say either has no access, can read, or can edit. So this might be a case, Rebecca, where especially once you're done with a set like this, you can make it like read for some people and just make it that they can only read it, they can't edit that. Um, like for instance, up in this one, I'm going to say that Chelsea can edit everything. Then I'm also going to say um, our someone from our education team can read it, but he can't edit. The other thing you can do with this too is do this for a period of time. So if I say, oh, I don't want no access for this one, I'm going to say can edit for my Fairfield admins. So I want to say that Chelsea can edit, Walt can read for a period of time. Um, I don't remember if it goes this way or not because I usually don't use this feature. It works well, but I haven't used it in ages. So I'm going to say that Walt can read this. I don't remember if this is, you guys may have to experiment with this a little bit, or I'll go and experiment and let you know. I can't remember if this is like from now until like June 1st, or if you can put in like a range. I think you might be able to, but I don't recall. Um, so you can say that Walt can only read this for that period and then he won't have access to it anymore. So we're going to save that. The one part, and I'll think about this, Rebecca, the one part is if you have it as you're still the owner of this, so you can do whatever you want to it. I don't believe that if you give somebody no access or read-only access. I don't believe that they can come in and edit the set and change that. I'll test it out later, and we can talk about this when we do the training with you. And we can bring it up next time too, or if we talk about searching.
That's great. Thank you.
So, hmm?
Oh, I just said that's great. Thank you for going through
Okay.
that.
Yeah, you should be able to do it this way because I'm pretty sure that they wouldn't be able to get in and have access because both of us previously had done administrator level access, but like I couldn't see the previous curators until she did make that, until she let me into it. So, which also means I couldn't really get into the set to do anything. I don't believe. I'll play with it a little bit and double check. But if they can, there's probably other ways that we can get around that to kind of make sure it's locked. You might also want to just put in the introduction for if this is going to be something that's like this going forward, you can always put in the introduction, set is closed for editing, do not change anything, talk to the curator, or something like that. Okay. So this is your basic info set. So you do want to make sure that you give the necessary people access to your collection. To be able to edit it, just read it, whatever. Sometimes you might have people just going over it for proofreading, something like that, or just judging which objects they want. Especially if you have somebody like if you have education looking at something and they're not usually using the system, you want to be able to say, okay, just go in and look at this set and let me know what you think. But you don't need to, they don't need to try to figure out how to change anything. So next we can click down on the items. So this will give you your list of what items you've added in there. So this is what we've got. You can also start adding objects from here. You can either type a name or if you've got the accession number, object ID, you can type that there. It'll kind of do a searchy thing. A note about this weird text. This is showing up when you've got media objects related to things. It's a bug that's on our list to have tech look at, but it's kind of as annoying as it is, it's on the bottom end of our list right now because we have some other stuff that we're dealing with. But you can get to all the way at the end and see what the title of the actual object is. So I'm going to add this photograph because I know what it is. Add that guy there. As always, save. And I've decided I'm probably not going to put the fur collar in there. That's kind of going against, I think, what we're trying to do with that exhibit. So you can just click that, and that just takes it out of the set. It doesn't delete the record itself or do anything with the record. It just takes it out of the set. So I can save this again. It gives you, because I didn't save it before I did the other one. So I didn't add one and save it. I deleted one and saved it. That's why it kind of yelled at me. Even though it's red and scary when those messages come up, it's usually nothing major. So you can also reorder things from here too. So you want to start or you want to put the photograph down towards the bottom. You can grab it and click and drag down and save that. Although there still is the option up here to sort by the name or sort by the identifier here. You can look at the log. As with anything in the system, you can look at the log to see who was adding what, who did what here. Obviously me creating it, adding stuff all the way along. Items here, you can do a PDF of this. Well, you can do a PDF or a PDF checklist of different reports that you have or displays that you have set up. Like I have one that I would use for something like this with exhibitions. And again, this is a tremendously long amount of stuff because I have a lot in there for myself for Fairfield. I have a location confirmation list that gives me the location, and I believe that one has an image with it too. So if you're printing out a list to go find everything, I like having the images so I can see what I'm looking for if I'm not familiar with it. So you can do it as a list and download it and open your PDF and give it to folks. There's a couple different ways to print out lists. I can get to that in a second too. Before I leave this, okay, so over here is some of the standard buttons that you've seen on your regular object records. Your information, but you can see that it was created. It was last changed by me 19 seconds ago. This is a download all media associated with records in this set. So you can just pull all of the images all together. Say you've got your PR people are like, I need some images from this exhibit. Okay, you know what? Here's all of them. So you can pull them down and either share that with them or put them in a folder on your server or however you're working it so they can see and you're like, you can use any of these. This here is the changing the type. And when you click on that and you'll see this is change type from user set to public presentation, which is good for when you're doing a gallery. We're just keeping that for now. This part is very important. There's the little duplicate this user set. That's the same like pages on top of each other for duplicating something. And you've also got duplicate items in this set and add to current set. This is the one right here to be very wary of because it is what it says it is, duplicate items in this set. It won't duplicate just the set, it'll make double records for the individual objects. So unless you have a reason to do that for something, I would recommend using that against using that one like ever, because you'll end up with, another however many objects we have in this, like another 10 objects, and they'll be the exact same records. So if you want to duplicate the set for something else, let me cancel out this. And I've done this before for the duplicate the user set because we've had our initial list of things that we've done for an exhibit, and then we've changed it up as we add and take away from things. But sometimes we want that initial set because I want to look back and say, what were the other dresses that we were looking at for this show? Because now we want to sub some things out. Let's look at my original list. So when you duplicate this user set, it'll come up and say, here's the same thing, that cats, animals for exhibit, and it'll say duplicate right on that. So when you go to that basic info, it'll say duplicate. Your set code gives it like a 0.1, but everything else will stay the same. So now when you go to, and yes, I do need to clean out a lot of my sets. They're kind of a mess. I just haven't gotten to it yet. So now you'll see that that comes up twice. We've got that cats, animals for exhibit, and then the duplicate. So you can change it. Like I'll put something in about original list, something like that. So you'll know. And because that's changing, I usually get rid of that. That might yell at me. I'm going to add just original to the end of this. So now I should be able to get rid of that one and it won't yell at me. Yeah, so there we go. So there's my original list for something. So now I can pull that all together. The other thing you can do from the editing user step part is you can do your batch editing for here. So this is great if you want to do anything to like the whole entire set of objects. So I'm going to say batch edit for this one. I'm going to add a note to it. So this batch edit set, for those of you who haven't looked at it yet, it kind of comes up as the same setup as your regular individual object records. So you'll see the same pages over here, your basic information, your physical characteristics, all of that stuff all the way down. And within those pages, you'll see the fields that are over here as well. Most commonly, honestly, I use this one for adding notes. So we're going to add a note. You can either, it automatically comes up do not use, so nothing will be changed in those fields that has do not use next to it. But you can add whatever you're adding to each individual item. So you can replace values or you can remove all values. I've messed around a little bit with the replace and remove, but I usually use the add to each item. So for this, I'm going to say in the notes fields, for possible inclusion in animals position. And when you hit execute batch edit, this is one of those things that's really useful, the batch edit. Don't do it when like end of the day when you're like kind of not paying attention, because you don't want to mess anything up. Like adding a note to something isn't a big deal, but if you're like adding or removing or replacing or something, then it gets a little bit crazier. So just make sure you're thinking about it and are in a good headspace to be doing that. So when you click execute batch edit, it'll come up and it'll kind of give you that warning of like, are you sure? So you're about to apply changes to 6 objects. These changes cannot be undone. And you can do a process in background that's likely doing like the whole entire system. It's a little bit of a misnomer with these changes cannot be undone. You can't go in and like do a batch edit undo. So that's kind of what it means. You can go in and go into the individual notes fields and all these objects and take that note out. So it's not like it's permanent and nothing can be done. It just, you can't do a quick removal thing. So I'm going to execute my batch edit. And because there's 6 records, if there's many more, you'll see this kind of progress bar. But for 6, it just did it super quick. So these are all noted that they're possibly going to be in the exhibit. And it also lets you.
Sorry, can I ask another question about this?
Yeah, please.
So would this be a good way for us to do a location change in exhibition? Do you usually use this system for like having a final checklist and then changing location to say it's in the gallery, or is there a different method you would use for something like that?
Yes.
Okay.
You can, and there's a spot in locations to batch edit stuff. Let me double check that because it was something, one of the things I added to my system, and I don't know if I did it for everybody for that batch location change. You can batch location change here. Oops, let me get a batch edit. Hold on. Oh, I'm in batch edit. Yeah, you can do a batch location change here, or more so, I do location notes a lot of the time here. For your exhibitions, when you put your dates of your exhibition in the date field under that module, it will automatically, the day your exhibit opens, it will move everything in that exhibit to the location of your exhibit. Or say, actually, not to location, but it'll say it's on exhibit. It'll say it's in the animals exhibit. And then when it closes, it will, if there's a home location created for an object, it'll send it back to the home location, even though you may not technically have it out of the gallery yet. But it will definitely put it there in the beginning part. But you can do something like that here. It's, again, one of those, plus and minus things with the system. There's 20 different ways to do things. So it's all kind of how it works best for you. A lot of the time, what I do with this one is I'll say, add to each item temporarily in library pending exhibit installation. So if you move everything into like a staging area or something, this is a good place for that. And you can do it for these too, is add it to a new storage location for something. Library, you can make it temporary. You can do that here. So yeah, part of the workflow of how you normally will do things. I am not moving these things though, so I'm going to take this off. And again, if you're not sure if you've, especially if you've like walked away from your screen for a second and come back and be like, oh, where am I? What was I doing? Always check this upper left that you're batch editing 6 objects and all of that. So, oh, this is another thing too. So you can always check up there for where you were. This other options of, it's red like this for a reason, because these are very major things. So this delete all records in the set, this isn't just taking them out of the set. This is literally deleting the object record from the system. Do not use that unless you seriously want to delete the records in the system, which you usually never want to do. I've only used it a couple times because I had, when playing around with it, I had duplicated the set and copied those records and made new ones that I didn't need. So I went back in and deleted those bad records. I also have deleted something else in like a batch thing, but it was definitely something that I meant to do and wanted to get rid of those records, not just take them out of a set, but just actually delete those records in the system. I don't do that all that much. Um, Set type for records and set, as a side note, can be very useful because a lot of the time, if somebody has migrated things in, depending on your type of migration, when you had done it, sometimes everything will go in as a physical object, or now you've decided that you want to count your photographs, which had gone in as a physical object, that you're like, those actually still, those should be still images. So you can group those together and change that to still image. So that's a lot easier than going through and doing each thing individually. But these two are very major things to do. So it's bred for a reason. So you should be alarmed by the little bomb. Just be very careful with this. I'm going to close the options to here and cancel out of this because I don't need to do anything here. Okay. So that's kind of doing things from the back end side as we kind of went by quickly. So you can just go into, like I have a set of stuff and go to find objects and search by set. You can go down your whole list. I'm like, oh, Barnum chairs. Where are the Barnum chairs? Let me look at these really quickly. And you can just pull them up from there. It's super easy. You can also, to make it easier to pull up sets even before going into here, we've talked about, I think, a lot of the time talked about the dashboard up here for when your individual login screen is here. Let me get a sandbox because that's a little cleaner. The sandbox only has a couple things on it right now. Most everyone, when you get your new system, you should always have this counts up on the left-hand side, and the rest of it will usually be blank. The counts is super easy for getting a snapshot view of how many records are in, what types of records, and also getting into that grouping of records really quickly because you can just click on any of these greenish numbers, they'll light up, and that'll get you right to those records, which makes it very easy. You can edit your dashboard here. There's a couple of videos on that, but one of the widgets that's available is searching by set off of this. I don't think I have it on this one. You can do an advanced search on Fairfield. I definitely have a search by set here, and it covers all of the different sets for all of the different groups. So you can go right straight from here and go into find your cats grouping, the original one, and hit search and it goes right up to that. Some things are not, there was one grouping of sets that I had issues with getting back into. I don't think there's any of these. I think they're fine. But you can do sets for other things as well. I usually only do it for objects myself. Okay. So galleries. Go to Connecticut collections. The public portal page. I am not a robot. You do have, okay, there's a big asterisk with this right now, and I may have put it in the newsletter this month. You do have the ability to create your own groupings of things to be put on the portal. Because when you'll see up here, there's, the regular collections, institutions, the transcribe feature. When you click on gallery, right now, it's the same 5 featured galleries that we've had for ages. One of these is one that I created ages ago. A couple of them are from Westpac and Westport. When we redid the whole webpage, Tech added trolley lines of Connecticut and amusement parks just as kind of like a grouping of how you could do things. Our intent was for everybody to be able to create their own galleries and have them show up here. During one of the updates, it took away the ability to put them here, but now it adds it to your own institution's page, and I'll show you. So we'll go to institution. We haven't gotten to the asterisk part. Browse by institution. I'm going to go to Fairfield just because I know that it's there. So if I go to my page about Fairfield, here's my institution, here's the blurb, here's the info, and now your featured galleries will show up here, just on your page. This is something that we are on our list to change. This is only slightly up from the bottom because there's a couple other issues that we need to have taken care of first. This is where the asterisk comes in because we have been having issues with those galleries syncing to the portal at all, even just to your own page. We're not sure why that is. I actually did talk to our counterpart in Minnesota, who basically runs the same system and everything that we do, and we always compare notes. She was working with tech on a lot of the updating and the syncing for the portal as well. And she said he was trying to work on a more streamlined sync to make it not as cumbersome on the back end. So I think this is why everything's hanging up right now with the like the syncing the galleries. Please do let me know if you're running into any sync issues, whether it's an individual object, an updated record, especially the galleries, because I want to keep an ongoing list for when we talk to tech about this further, that I can say specifically, we are looking to have these groups have galleries set up. So do let me know. Just send it to the regular CTCo@clho.org email, and we'll get it. And just let us know the name of your set, obviously your institution and the name of your set. And we'll hopefully get this solved a little sooner rather than later. Because at least we want to be able to put it here, because what this will let you do is I've got my quilt collection here, and it's got my little blurb about the quilts, a highlight record, like a primary image record, and then the rest of them down here that you can click on and go to. But this will also let you, if you highlight that and copy it, that'll let you send groupings of things to people. So if you have, like we had a quilt group come to the museum a couple years ago. So we could have beforehand copied this and sent it to them and say, this is the type of thing that we have, things that we have in the collection. So they can go right to this link and they'll come right to this page rather than telling them, go to CT collections, go to our institution, and go to our page. And that way it gives you kind of a shortcut. I do it at the museum as well for things like our Mabel Has Good Right slides that we have, because this is a big collection that we use all the time. And I think it's highlighted on our regular institutional webpage. So I can just link to that collection and it'll go straight there. Again, the dream is to get it back into gallery and see everything here, but hopefully this will be solved soon and later. And if you do have sets that are not syncing, let me know. Jody, I know about yours. If I think somebody else had one, if anybody else has anything, do let me know. Let's see. Well, that's pretty good. Does anybody have any questions about any of this? Why you should be using sets versus collections, why you should be using anything like that. I'm going to pop back to Fairfield for a second. Just to show pulling all their stuff together. Yeah, I would go to blanket chest, but I know I have one, so maybe two. Oh, Cannonball, this was a good one. These are all the cannonballs in our collection because we had a query on them. And it helps just pull that rather than create a new set every single, or a new search every single time to be able to do something.
You had mentioned at the beginning that the collections module is to be used more for archival collections. Is there an upcoming request to office hours where you talk about that in more detail?
I think so. Hold on, let me look at my other window under the schedule.
I'm sure we don't have enough time left to go into it
Oh,
now,
we
but
do not. No, we definitely do not. Funny you should ask, and you are not a plant with that question, but in June, on the 22nd, we will be talking about archival collections.
okay, perfect. Thank
So
you.
next month. I was almost going to say that right off the top of my head that it was next month, but yeah, I just double checked it is next month. There's a couple videos about the archival collections thing because of the grant project that we just did. But this will kind of get into more, not more into it. This will kind of do more of a light overview of it for general use. And how it works well with other things and why it works better for archives, like it was designed versus like collections of like, here's all our paintings, kind of thing. So yeah,
Diane, this is Jo.
come back next month. Hi, Joanne.
Hi. You said there were a couple of videos on archives. Are they on the YouTube channel?
Let me double check. They should be,
Mhm.
because we were supposed to put them up for that grant. And it's one of those, I'm like, yes, of course they are. And then I started thinking about it. I'm like, I don't know that I actually did put them up yet. So let me check on that and see. I don't have, I might have put it on the, under the Archives 101 set or like grouping playlist. There we go. Under the Archives 101 playlist, maybe, but I'm not sure. But I will look that up for you and see. If you go into our YouTube page and look for archives, there's going to be 5 main ones from that Archives 101 thing, and then anything above that will be on there.
Okay,
But I
great.
will double check.
In July, you indicated we're going to do entities.
I
Will you be
believe so.
talking about how to set up sets for entities?
How to set up.
Sets for entities?
Sure. It should work pretty much in the same way.
Mhm.
I haven't used it that much myself, so I'll go back on and practice a little bit, but you should be able to do it the same way. Like if you have a grouping of like everyone who was, in the women's auxiliary league or something that's in a group or something like that, you might be able to do that. I will look that up before we meet though. Yeah, I haven't had a need to do with entities really, but I usually use it just for the objects. And I'm gonna stop recording. But if anybody's got more questions, let me know.